This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about Straw Dogs from 1971, directed by Sam Peckinpah. And correct me if I'm wrong, RJ, but this is the only entry thus far for Mr. Peckinpah.
I think you are wrong. He did that movie Almost Heroes, starring Chris Farley.
Right.
And that's Spine 1000, I think.
Oh, yeah, damn.
I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty confident.
The tagline for this film, sometimes a man is forced to defend his honor.
What? Oh, I mean, I guess, but...
David Sumner, a mild-mannered academic from the United States, marries Amy, an English woman. In order to escape a hectic stateside lifestyle, David and his wife relocate to the small town in rural Cornwall, where Amy was raised. There, David is ostracized by the brutish men of the village, including Amy's old flame, Charlie. Eventually, the taunts escalate, and two of the locals rape Amy. This sexual... Wait. This sexual assault awakes a shockingly violent side of David.
No, it doesn't.
That's
He doesn't even know about it.
Not till the very, very end.
Well, yeah.
He picks up on some things. Anyways, so that's again another flawed synopsis.
Classic, man. I don't know who. So how do you write the synopses on Letterboxd? Who's in charge of that?
Anybody. You or I could do it. We could fix it. We could be part of the solution rather than just complaining on our podcast.
So it's Wikipedia style. You can go in there and just fix it.
Yes. Yeah. You just have to go
How
to
do you do that?
themoviedb.org.
I don't want to do that.
Okay. So RJ, this movie Straw Dogs, it's based on a novel.
What's the novel called?
The Siege of Trencher's Farm by one Gordon Williams.
I like Straw Dogs better.
Do you know what Straw Dogs is in reference to?
I'm aware of Straw Dogs. I'm aware of straw men arguments. I've read some critical inquiry propositions. I know what Straw Dogs are all about. Are you aware?
Well, I won't be after watching this film, but I will be after I watch the 2011 remake, which explicitly explains the meaning of its own title, which is always my favorite moment in any movie ever.
When they say what they mean.
Yeah.
So I actually wasn't paying attention in the remake very good. We'll get there. But did they actually describe? Did they define it right? Okay.
Yeah. They like the guy, Mr. Director, screenwriter Rod Lurie. He has a scene where his Hollywood screenwriter explains Straw Dogs via a Wikipedia entry, essentially out loud though, because he just knows this stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, about ceremony and after their day in the sun, their use is meaningless. Yeah, we all know there. But it's in reference specifically to the louts, the townies, the glory days of footballing.
The glory days. You know, I've heard people describe this podcast as a straw dog. Would you?
No. So RJ, it's based on a novel.
Okay, cool.
This movie, Straw Dogs, I've seen a few times. I've got this on that big, thick DVD that they put out way back when it came out.
From Criterion?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think that's about the only way you could watch it. Maybe I'm forgetting about an old DVD, but I hope not. Anyways, so I've had this one in the collection for a while. I was glad to say that when I popped it in on DVD, it still looked pretty good. I think it is now on Blu-ray, so there's that. And this is a movie that I've always had a fondness for as much as one can be fond of Straw Dogs. Okay. This is a movie. Actually, one thing I'll throw out there too, the last few weeks I've been watching Dustin Hoffman movies, kind of like forgetting that he's in Straw Dogs, but also forgetting that this is only his like fourth movie, like real movie, and it's because his first real movie was The Graduate, and then he followed that up with Midnight Cowboy, and then he's got like something in between there, but then Straw Dogs, and I'm like, fuck.
I think Meet the Parents is in between there.
Yeah. So that's pretty crazy to me. That's quite a career. This guy was picking and choosing some interesting stuff.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good streak. I mean, I was also watching on the special features of this DVD. There was a on set interview with Dustin Hoffman during filming, and it has such a different feel to it now than like when actors are interviewed now, where they're just like, I'm so happy to be working here. Sam Peckinpah, he's just a visionary, you know. It's like it's just like all like with that shit they put in front of the movies and theaters, all that crap with like just these guys who are like being polite with talking boxes that are just like, I'm a failed actor. Let me ask you questions about your craft, and but I might still make it one day. But
well, it's all that shit where it's just like, well, this is probably the best movie I've ever worked on. It's like, and they're like, wow, that sounds great, and it's just like, well, yeah, no shit.
Yeah. So when you get to hear like Dustin Hoffman lounging around in the grass on location and just like talking about how he approaches these movies, it's just like, oh, it's so authentic, and this guy seems to be like really in his own head and thinking about how he chooses things, what he finds interesting, and not in a way where like, yeah, this was a good career move. Yeah. Anyways, Straw Dogs.
Do you think his best career move would have been Hook or what?
Oh man, that's the 90s. There comes a turn for Mr. Hoffman. Oh yeah, the movie I was forgetting that was in between there was Little Big Man from old Arthur Penn.
Okay. Last Dustin Hoffman thing between Tootsie, Rain Man, and Hook. What's the best one?
Kramer versus Kramer. Movie's not, I don't even think that movie's very good.
Hook's so good.
No.
Get after it, baby.
No, how about Dick Tracy? Huh?
Nah.
Oh, come on. Dick Tracy's horrible.
I would rather watch Hook all day, every day.
I would rather watch Warren Beatty direct himself with Madonna, with Al Pacino.
What about Al Pacino? Anyways, what about Straw Dogs,
Straw Dogs.
Is that a good show?
So, this movie opens up with David, old Dusty himself, with Amy. They're in this small little village, Cornwall, and he's getting himself some supplies for the new house, and he's got himself a bear trap. As you do.
Why?
Because he's interested in it. He thought that was really cool. He went thrifting, and he's like, "Hey, you don't see one of those all the time." So he grabs it. And we have a nice setup. We were like, what's the bear trap doing right now? When's the bear trap going to happen? Oh, there it goes. Finally. Spoilers. So, you get some glances, some maybe even more than glances from Charlie, the old flame.
More than a glance, you say?
Yeah. We had a little bit of like, yeah, you liked it when I was rough with you. You liked to be told what you did. You're like, that's what you say to old girlfriends. That's
I mean, that might be what you say to old girlfriends. I've seen you in public.
Yeah, that's typical. We get introduced to Uncle Tom, who seems like a good dude when he's getting very, very angry very quickly, breaking his like bartender's like glass with his own hand.
I didn't see a problem with that scene. I thought that was a completely normal way to react to that.
Yeah. We get David, who is very like, oh, violence, oh. Because he's a man of math.
Math. What a nerd.
So I mean, like, do you have a problem, RJ? Maybe this is a contemporary problem where like characters' jobs somehow play into the screenplay of a movie. We kept thinking, how is math going to tie into the plot?
Well, I thought it did, in numerous ways.
Like the math of shooting people.
He's a cold, calculated man,
beating people with fire pokers.
I imagine, like in the final scenes, I thought that what he was doing was very calculated, Jarrett. He was like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I got this house handled. I got it. And I thought that was his math.
After he's gone over the edge.
I believe, after has gone over the edge. I believe, Jarrett, actually, I think the plural to math is just maths.
Maths.
And I think someone was like, that doesn't sound right. That sounds like the wrong way to say it. But I think that's actually right. You ever do maths?
Yeah, I've done some maths. And some meths.
Oh. Okay.
So, Straw Dogs.
Yes.
They get out there. They're getting their roof done on Susan George's dad's old place. It's all fallen, rotten to seed, gone to seed. And we get introduced to the lead rapist, soon to be lead rapist. He's got that look. And then there's like a rat catcher. Just all the horrible
motley crew.
The horrible mugs of rural England. that we all know to love. This kind of fits into like that subgenre for me of like Shane Meadows movies. Come to England. It's just like these movies that you'd put in like a really bad travel brochure, like Naked. You're like, come to England, come to Scotland and see Ratcatcher. Come.
What would Canada's be?
Things.
Mother, or what was that movie?
Things.
Mommy. Things. Oh, the horror movie Things.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, cool.
So I don't know. What do you think of David and Amy's relationship in this movie? Do you think it's got a solid base? Do you see why they got married in the first place? Does it seem like they're a good match?
Well, I mean, I actually understand this thing quite a bit because this happens with many people, and it's one of those things where I think you, from an outsider perspective, you're like, I wonder why these people are like together, and then you see like little moments, and you're like, oh, okay, there is a spark, but also they don't really go together there, Jarrett. There's certain things.
Do you see divorce in the future? I mean, that happens. It's a common thing in life.
50% of marriages end in divorce, Jarrett.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people sometimes shouldn't get together, but like from the outside, you're like, whoa, that's not a good mix. And so here you're kind of like, huh, I don't really see it. Like Amy seems pretty young and like wants a lot of attention, but here she is. She's married this like studious, sexy Dustin Hoffman, because apparently Dustin Hoffman is very, very sexual in like all his like early films. Maybe not so much as Ratso, but definitely in The Graduate and Marathon Man. He just like doesn't do much, and suddenly ladies are just like all about him.
I always thought he was a sexual being.
So you're kind of like, oh, what? But why? It's supposed to be like he's working, and she wants to like, hey, let's hang out, let's do stuff, and he's like, nah. So there's like these little passive aggressive things where there's the chalkboard where they're kind of thick, where they're that
made me absolutely furious.
The erasing.
Oh yeah,
the gum.
Yeah, his
expression. Don't you do it?
Are you when he first sees like the change from the
what's she doing? Messing around?
The addition to the subtraction? Is she playing with me? Is she messing around? What is this horse shit? So Andrea tells me I work too much, which I probably do. I can acknowledge that, but she knows not to touch my stuff. There's this ongoing joke, Jarrett.
Or will you break her neck?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I mean, if you have a fall, you have a fall. No, she knows it's an ongoing joke with us. It's I don't like my touch being stuffed, or my stuff being touched,
or your touch being stuffed,
or my touch being stuffed. Yeah, but we respect each other's space, each other's boundaries, and it's a great way to stay in shape. So we're doing okay.
Great.
Yep.
So
we're doing okay.
So these two, they're having they have some good moments, but in this movie, it seems like they're kind of like things aren't going amazingly. And then you've got these dudes. You have these assholes, and these guys are just like awful human beings.
Jarrett Duncan kind of guys.
Oh yeah, these are my.
The one
these are my dudes.
That dude who's always sitting on the roof eating a sandwich. That's such a Jarrett. Every time I saw him, I was like, oh, that's Jarrett for sure.
Yeah, with his cap. Is that one?
Oh yeah.
No,
yeah.
Yeah, future rapist there.
Who, him?
I don't know. Well, there's two guys. They all have hats because it's fucking England.
Hey, do you ever wear a hat?
So this movie's dreary, miserable. The bog trotting boots, a staple of this part of the world, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get introduced to like this like side character, like absolutely this like little minor thing. David Warner. He seems to be playing like the kind of the palsied, alleged pedophile who everyone's like afraid of. Now, there's no clear reason. Like it seems like everyone though, like even Amy, she's like, no, that guy, like why isn't that guy locked up? I thought they were going to do something about him, and he's still lumbering around, and everyone just shits on him. He's the pariah of the town, and but there's this young jailbait young woman, the daughter of Uncle Tom, who's like kind of protected over by her brother. Who initially I was like, are they like, is that her boyfriend? But it's like, no, that's her brother.
No,
I guess.
It's one of those other deals.
Yeah. So they're just hanging around, keeping an eye on her because she's like, oh, she's kind of got those Lolita things going on, and everybody's like, because they're all pervs, they're all like, oh man, the things that cross my mind, let alone what other men must think about her. We all got to keep an eye on her because she's wanting attention. Even she's like hitting on fucking David. She thinks
what was crossing. I find it interesting the way you phrase that, Jarrett. What was crossing your mind when you looked at her?
character in a movie?
I guess that's good. Don't incriminate yourself here. You don't want to say anything too suspect.
Well, it's a good thing I'm not going to be a school teacher.
That's probably very good.
Yeah.
If I was you, I just wouldn't even be around any public situation at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So
you're talking about this guy who nobody likes.
Yeah, things just kind of start escalating just a little
Sure,
bit. But David's
sure they
very
do.
passive aggressive. You know, he's like kind of not. He's avoiding conflict, and then eventually, there's a dead cat,
Yes.
and there's also up to this point. I'm sure this is a well trodden territory, where David seems not to be a big fan of the cats.
I didn't much care for the treatment of the animals in this movie at all. Any of them. Even my rat brethren, who
They mostly just get tossed into places.
Yeah, but have you ever been thrown in through a window? Like,
Yes.
Yes. Put it in like equivalent yourself to them, where it's like how far they would be thrown in for you. So that'd be like a 15, 20 foot drop. Just, ugh,
They're fine.
They're not fine. And I also, I'm just going to lay it out there. I had issue with that because in my mind, I said, where the fuck is this guy getting live rats that he's pulling out of his pocket and can just talk? Well, I realize he says, he's like, I feel closer to rats than people.
Rat man.
He's rat man.
Yeah, he's rat
but
man.
would he just keep them in his pockets? Like, what does he do?
What
does he do, Jared?
He's got him stored away.
Where?
His bag of holding.
What?
Yeah, you figure it out. So, cat gets killed, gets strung up, and it's like, oh, shit's getting weird. And then Amy's like, what the fuck? It's like, this is a sign. And it's like, you got to do something about this, you cowardly piece of shit. And David's like, well, I'm going to trick him. I'm going to set him up. And then he kind of blames that like Amy brings this bowl of cat milk out with the rest of their drinks is why he doesn't like go along with it. And then he gets invited out to go hunting. He's like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but maybe when I go out hunting, I'll ask them about it then. Yeah. Like all these little excuses, all these subtle little things. But of course, this is all a ploy to get David out of the house, even though whatever, David was there, wasn't there. It seems like these dudes could arrange whatever they wanted.
Anyway.
Yeah, old Charlie. He pays Amy a visit. He starts using his aggressions to put Amy into a terrible position and rapes her. And there's sort of like, I've watched this movie a few times, and I remember like for whatever reason the second time, she seemed to be more welcoming to it, and it's kind of like nebulous how they play it with that particular bit. But like it's like, oh, like is this something that she's okay with, or is this playing with like the complexity with these sort of things? I don't know. It's not like, it's not like, I don't feel it's like very exploitative there. And then
go on.
And then the other shoe drops. As Charlie and her, they're kind of laying together post-coitus. And then Charlie has a shotgun or rifle put on him, point blank.
Doesn't matter.
And he's kind of like, by lead rapist, he's told to get up, and he kind of like, okay, and he holds her down, and she's like, oh, what's going on? Huh? And then she realizes real quick what's happening. You're like, oh.
What happens, Jarrett?
She gets raped. And then old David is left out in the meadow where he's killing birds, pheasants or some shit.
Is that metaphorical, Jared?
Well, so he kills one and he goes over, finds it, and so I read that scene as he felt bad about killing it, but
yes, I did too.
But when I was watching a documentary with old Dustin, he was saying that like it was about because at that moment he realized he really enjoyed it and he felt bad about that, and then he put it back there.
I think that's a bit of a reach.
But that's what he says. Like that's how he thought. But in my mind, I was like, because I don't know. I also have a very specific memory about like my dad telling me about like going hunting with my grandfather, like on my mom's side. Like they lived on a farm, and I think he shot a squirrel, and he felt horrible. He felt so bad about it, like, and he's like, "Oh my god!" Like, because he's never killed anything like that before, and he was like, "Oh my god, this sucks! Like, this is shitty." And so in my mind, that's like the image that's kind of filled in that relationship or that emotional beat, because like that's why he leaves it, because he's like, he's so ashamed of it. But it's like, well, I guess like because of that interview though, he's like, oh, he felt ashamed of it, not because he felt guilty about killing it, because he doesn't seem to really give a shit about the cat for the most part. He's like kicking the cat, throwing oranges at the cat, because he's just like, this cat's is annoying all the time. I'm not a big fan of cats, and so with this animal, he's like, oh, he's a 70s man, he doesn't care about animals. He's like the filmmakers about these movies, he doesn't care. And but he was like, I kind of liked it, but he doesn't like, I guess he doesn't like lick his lips and go, oh yeah, blood, and they never explicitly say it at all in the movie. And then it's not. Yeah.
I think this is like a subtext that you would never ever be able to draw from. So like him saying that now, I think is some retroactive stuff.
No, RJ, that was in 1971 when they were making the movie. Like,
oh, that's when he. Yeah, but okay. So even so, not retroactive, but I think this is something where it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's one of the, like, show don't tell, but it's like there's no like actual
telling
thing. Yeah, there's nothing you could show or tell from that.
It might be.
I read it the same as you.
It might be clearer in the novel where it says, "And he liked it" or something like that. Like there's like an actual line.
Yeah, just an actual line.
And then Peckinpah being, I think, a pretty good filmmaker, he's just like, nah, no, I'm not going to go that route. That's that gives you too much info.
Yeah, I read it the one way, Jarrett. Yep. And speaking for myself and for your father killed an animal once. I have killed countless souls, and I read it as he felt bad, and I find that is better, because I think it even makes his turn at the end even more impactful.
Yeah. So
that's how I read it. And you know what, Dustin Hoffman? Why don't you go fuck yourself? With this weird shit that you're like layering into.
Maybe he
read.
Because he actually read the screenplay. He read the screenplay.
I didn't know that this was a book until after I watched the movie, and then I was like, oh, it's too late now.
No. So the rape shit happens, and then Susan George, she's holding it in, like many of victims. She just doesn't go. She doesn't go to the authorities. She doesn't even tell her husband about it. She's just going to get over it and deal with it herself. And they go to the community dance hall, like. Soon after, David's just kind of complaining about these guys, and like they're assholes that left him out there. They're real jerks. Who are these people? Kind of blaming her. It's like, why are you laying in bed? So she's just like, yep. They go to the party. We start getting some of that editing of her like having that PTSD flashbacks as things are happening, and she just can't get it out of her head, which is just the way it would be. And it's just like it's overwhelming, and she wants to get past it. And this is where we get. That's like, so the first hour of this movie, I think, is a very solid first half of the movie, and then it builds up to that rape scene, and then you're like, okay, well, what happens next? And then the second half all takes place over the course of one evening, where they go to this hall. David Warner's character, he is he's seduced by the minor woman, who they go off somewhere nice and quiet down an alley, and of course Uncle Tom gets wind with it, with him and his boys, because Charlie's his nephew. And they hear they've kind of left, and of course there's some activity. David Warner's like, "Oh God, be quiet," and then with his, we'll say, retard strength, in quotes, he kills her. He kills her dead, and he's like, "Oh dear," and he leaves her, and he starts running off into the mists. David and Amy are returning home because Amy is not feeling it, and on their drive home, they drive into David Warner. And they're like, "Oh God, oh geez, load him into the car. We'll call the ambulance. We'll get the doctor." So they go up to the cottage. There's an angry mob that's assembling back in the village, and then David calls the bar where the mob is kind of grouping up, and the word is of where Mr. Monster Pedophile is, and the
what? Sorry,
the monster pedophile.
Okay.
They all get together and they head on. They're like, "Give him over to us." And David's like, "No." That's like, "No, he's an injured man. I don't care what you have to say. Well, you should get the authorities involved in all this, and then we'll have it sorted then." And things begin to escalate. And soon, so the major, like the local, I guess, sheriff, we'll just say, he kind of comes in. He's like, "What's all this then?" And he's like, "All right, you've all had enough to drink. Come on now, give me the shotgun." And there's a bit of a struggle over that shotgun, and then the major is blown through with a shotgun blast. And
through a struggle, correct?
A struggle, yes.
Not intentional, no.
No, not absolutely.
Okay, good.
No, absolutely. Good. It is accidental, and like one of those like, oh shit, like an accident. It's an accidental death. But the guy pulled, like, at the end of the day, you'd be like, well, it's still it's a killing.
Still killed him.
But and then of course that's when shit gets real crazy, and this is when this movie escalates to the excellent second half of just fucking madness. It's like everything's kind of a little too close. There's like guys running in and out of the mist. It turns into a siege movie, and you have Dustin Hoffman who's just like, he's like, his hair's getting a little bit more frayed. His glasses are getting kind of broken up. His little suit that he's wearing, it's taking off the jacket, undoing that tie. It's getting blood soaked, and mayhem, RJ, mayhem.
What kind?
Bloody mayhem. People's feet getting blown off. People's heads getting caved in again with fire pokers. Bear traps.
So they called it a man trap in this thing for some reason.
Yeah, it's that big.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like, was that a thing that they used? Like they trapped men in?
Probably kings did. You know, those.
I've been called the same, Jarrett.
The nobles.
The noblemen, eh?
Yeah. So I think this movie is pretty awesome. I like it quite a bit. It's just like that. Like I've talked about my liking that green room. This movie kind of has that same vibe of just like, oh shit. It kind of it sucks you right in. I don't know. To me, it's just thinking about it. Everyone's wrong in this movie. There's no right or wrong. Everyone's fucked. Everyone's like coming out, like no one has like a complete picture of anything. They're only kind of like fueled by their own biases and what they think they know. Like every single character, top down, is like flawed. They're not like, but they're acting in their what they think are their best interests. Maybe not the rapists, but those are just bad dudes. But everyone's like, everything's a mess. David's kind of like, oh, he's on the wrong side of this because he is protecting a man who just accidentally killed a woman, and all these guys think that he's done something to her and they want him. It's basically because they're probably just going to murder him potentially. And then Amy, she's like, she doesn't want anything to do with any of it, and she's even willing to like side with like these guys who've raped her because she's like,
she's a local.
She's a local, and it's like, well, yeah, no, like, yeah, everyone's wrong, and yeah, I think there's like so much ambiguity, and you can't root for any particular person. But I mean, I guess it's like exciting, and it kind of puts you into the position of David, who is again a flawed person, and his attempts to keep them out of his keep. It's very, very raw movie, RJ. Very.
What other words would you use to describe it?
Raw dog.
Baby.
Yeah. So RJ,
thank you. Yes.
You had never seen Straw Dogs before.
No,
week.
I hadn't.
So I'm curious. What do you think of Sam Peckinpah's Straw Dogs?
Well, Jared, I have some thoughts. I have some ideas, and I have some things to say, as you were. We talked about in the preamble a little bit about Mr. Peckinpah. The movies I've seen of his, I've liked quite a bit. But I haven't dabbled too much into the shit.
Because you've seen that. You've seen Wild Bunch, Cross of Iron, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. All the good bangers. Stuff. Yeah.
All-time bangers.
Ride the High Country.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't even realize that was Peckinpah. Yeah, that's how bad I am at this.
Yeah, we were talking in the preamble in our full podcast episodes, folks. How I find Peckinpah really runs hot and cold for me. He either like knocks it out of the ballpark, makes amazing movies, or he makes Major Dundee or Deadly Companions, or two movies I have not seen but I've not heard good things about, like Convoy or The Osterman Weekend, stuff like that, where you're like, yeah. Or there's the one, Killer Elite with James Caan. Not
that
good.
Sounds good.
No, it's not. Somehow Sam Peckinpah just does not bring that movie together.
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do? I have to say up front, I think Sam Peckinpah is the coolest name.
It's a pretty good name.
Of any name.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And then also up front, as we also talked about in the preamble, I think rape revenge movies are dumb. I've never really understood that. It is the same axe I grind with the animal violence thing where I'm like, I feel like they are such cheap ways to manipulate sympathy in people where it's just like, oh, don't you feel bad? That guy just killed that dog. Or that dude just raped 1,000 women. He's a bad dude. And it's like, I wonder if you could have maybe showed that in a different way. It's like, yeah, that's a really easy way to show that people are bad. Just raping people, killing animals,
Usually
whatever.
having people commit most crimes is an easy way to make somebody a bad
That's
person.
also an easy way. But I feel like people always crank it up to 11 real fast. It's like, how do we show that this guy's bad? I don't know. Have him rape someone, have him throw a dog out a fucking window. Like, I don't know. That's what people think, I think sometimes. So up front, I don't like that stuff. And I knew that this was a rape movie going into it. So I knew a little bit about Straw Dogs. I knew a little bit. My horror itch had me. This is one thing that I was like, I didn't go into it cold. That said, I think Straw Dogs I think this movie's got layers, Jarrett. I think it's got layers on top of layers where it contains multitudes, as a famous person once said. So as I was watching this, I kind of went up and then I came down and then I went up and I came down because I think it actually achieves some pretty interesting stuff. And here are some examples of that. I think, as you said, the wild hypocrisy of every person in this movie is the point of the movie, where you have rapist 1 and he rapes woman,
Charlie?
but he doesn't see it as rape though, right? Because he's like, no, I know her. She's into this. He sees it as this romantic thing. And then, I mean, like, I think there is a little bit of ambiguity between her intentions, which I think that's like one of the controversial points to this movie.
Yes.
And it's like I'm going to throw that out now. All of her emotions aside doesn't matter, because I think the point of that scene is you have the guy who doesn't think he's raping someone, but he does. And then he has rapist number 2 come in and he helps.
So this is the weird thing, right? I just want to throw out there about like rapists never really, I don't know if they think that they're ever raping anybody.
No. Yeah. Okay. So that's a good point. Yeah. So, and that's what I mean, where I think this movie's got some layers, right? Where it's like rapist 1, he doesn't see it as a bad thing. He's like, okay, I think she liked it. I think I did a good thing. Rapist 2 comes in.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, I know. Rapist 2 comes in and he rapes her. And then rapist 1 obviously isn't into it anymore. He's like, oh, well, I don't like when this guy rapes her.
Well, because it's almost like he's being held at gunpoint.
Yeah, and he's being held
to help out, and you're like, oh, and then he goes along with it. But then after it's all said and done, they're back to hanging out. They're palling around.
I actually think is like a more common reaction to things like that than anything else, because a lot of time people are like, don't know what to do, and then they just keep doing what they do because it's easier that way, right? So anyways, my point was, rapist 1, he doesn't really see it as rape. I'm sure rapist 2 doesn't either. But then rapist 2 comes and rapist 1 is like, oh, this is weird. And then he's like, not sure about it. So you have that little contrast where a guy who just raped a girl is like, oh, I don't like when this guy rapes other people. So it's like, there's your one like kind of loop into itself. You're like, okay, there's one good example of how this movie has layers. And then it comes up again when they're like, hey, let's go get that Jarrett Duncan quote unquote retard. They're like, let's go get that guy because we know he fucking killed that girl.
Well, no, but they don't even know that she's dead.
I know. They don't even know because they're just like, well, where is she? And they're like, well, we don't know. And they're like, that fucking guy did it.
Fiddling her. He's
a bad
dude. We gotta shut him down.
Whatever it was, he did it. We just know he did. So there's that part of it too, where it's like these guys who are out there raping people, they're just like, we just know with absolute certainty that guy did it. And this is one of the things that I'm not actually sure on. I don't know if I like that the dude actually killed her by accident,
Yeah.
or if it would have been better if he didn't. I'm not sure about that. I've been thinking about that all week. Doesn't matter. But I think that's
I think it's better that he accidentally killed her.
That he okay, yeah, and then it like that's one of those things. It's like I'm not sure. I go both ways.
It makes it more messed up.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Because he didn't mean to. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, he didn't mean to, and it does have that scene later where he's attacking the wife, and Dustin Hoffman comes in and just slaps him. He's like, "Hey, cut that shit out."
No, Obo, no,
no.
It's like he's like, yeah, I'm not sure what his like capabilities are supposed to be. Because it's like, because he's got some sort of like
not very clear.
He's got some sort of palsy going on. He seems like he's like, you know, that Hodor-ish. But not quite. He's got a little bit more vocal range than Hodor, but yeah.
So you have that, but
we all know that guy. You know, they're all around.
We all know a Jarrett. We all know one. So like I think my point was, you have all these people with all of these multitudes where it's like, we do this, but we expect that. And it's like, that's where I think that this movie is super complex and layered and actually really smart, and that they're working on these things. And I could see how those things get a little bit misinterpreted at times. Just scanning people's reviews. So like after this is like a new common thing now, and I don't mean to bring it up a lot, but I was reading Mr. Roger Ebert's review that I just pulled up now, because I was like, oh, I wonder what Ebert thought of this while you were talking about it. And I was scanning his review. He wasn't a fan of it.
Nope.
The first half of his review, he's just talking about the Wild Bunch and whatever. That's fine.
He liked that Wild Bunch.
He did quite a bit. But he ends on a thing here, like in his review, about how the movie itself is hypocritical of itself, where it's just like, well, he doesn't like the violence. He's like, this movie is like a joke of itself, basically. And it's like, I was reading this, I was like, I don't know if you understand what he was going for.
Yeah, see, that
he even says, like, he talks about Peckinpah, and he says, his work involves theory on the interiors of stars, but never mind, for Peckinpah's purpose, he is an intellectual. Like, he's talking about Dustin Hoffman, but I think he's also talking about Peckinpah, about being an intellectual. And he's talking about, in the first scene, children are torturing a dog. Did I watch a different movie? I didn't see any people torturing a fucking dog.
No, like, it's like in Wild Bunch, there's like the kids that are like killing the scorpion. Like they're cornering it and like setting it on fire. And that's like actually a really interesting thing that emerges in like these Peckinpah movies is kids, the use of children and like kind of their innocence in these adult settings. Because it's always like, people always like, especially nowadays, like when you watch like the remake of this or like most movies, they do not have children anywhere near any action. Like, unless it's just like, oh no, this kid might get run over by a car, quick. And then no, that's like, not like this, where it's like, no, here's like adult things that are horrible, and like kids are just around and they're seeing it. And like Peckinpah does that a lot. Like almost all his movies like that I've watched in the last week, there was like these little scenes where like groups of kids. It's not just like one. It's like, no, 5 kids are all hanging out and they're all like living in their own little like Peanuts life. And I'm like, I don't know if people have talked about that enough, or maybe they have, and I just need to read more. But
maybe you do need to read more. Yeah. No, anyways, I just wanted to bring it up because I feel like old Raj missed the point a little bit, because he says, he's like, the most offensive thing about this movie is its hypocrisy because it endorses violence. And it's like, well,
that's good though. Then
could be your read.
Then like I said, top down, this movie's hypocritical because it like is about like how it's about how awesome violence, like how cool violence is to watch, and like the satisfaction, I guess, of like. But you know, I don't know. I don't even feel like totally satisfied with these guys, because you're like, they're just getting like picked off one by one. I mean, man trapped to the head. I mean, satisfaction.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but it's like Charlie sucked. That other guy, like the rapist, got killed. Everyone, like, other than I guess like the poor David Warner, he's like, oh, I don't know how to get home, and he's like, and then Dustin Hoffman, I don't know either, and that's the end. That's the end of the movie.
I also don't know how to get home.
Everything's fucked.
Everything is fucked.
Yeah, life is ambiguous. Has an ambiguity.
Ambiguous? Yes, I agree. And like that's all I kind of meant by that, whereas like I think that the movie very delicately has these points to it, like what it's trying to say, and it shows it multiple times with different characters and in different ways. So it actually has like a lot of development between like where what he's trying to say and stuff like that. And I think it sums up the movie as a whole. So it's like these comments on like masculinity, violence, like rape, all that.
Well, the commentary on that one.
The commentary on that one. So I think it actually does like a lot of that stuff like is real well. So I think Straw Dogs is a complex movie. I don't like I never said like I like Straw Dogs. I don't know if I really like it or if I'm like just soft on it, but I definitely concede the merit of it where it's just like, yeah, man, I think this movie has got like a lot of shit to it. And I think it's a lot of stuff that could be easily overlooked, especially by old Roger Ebert, where it's just like, it's like I never read Ebert reviews other than the last 3 weeks where it's like I just Googled whatever movie we were watching, like Straw Dogs or I Am Curious, and like the second result was like Roger Ebert, and it was like a low rating. So I was like, okay, I was like, I'll check that out.
The first these movies, like I Am Curious and Straw Dogs, these are all like in the first 5 years of him being a professional film writer. Like he just I think his first started stuff came out for in Chicago 1967, and then so yeah, I mean that's I'm Curious, and then I mean Wild Bunch he was around for when that movie came out and saw it like in real time. And then 1971, like when you read the Wikipedia, it mentions that like 1971 was like kind of the year that was like Clockwork Orange, and like the year maybe movies were getting a little too hard for audiences, which like now we live in a totally different era where like 50 years later we're like violence schmiolence, like we've seen shit like this, it's on TV, like it's everywhere, and it's different. You watch it differently, but it's like, yeah, there's still like there are like things you still like, it's difficult to depict them, like rape, and it's like there's still people who watch this movie and they have a like really strong, or they say they have a really strong reaction to it, where they're like, this is vile, misogynistic, like violent pornography. And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess some people feel that way.
Sure.
Or they're this anti-Straw Dogs and anti anything that this movie could be dealing with at all. But then they'll find a spot in their heart for something else that like probably deals with the same things, but they just do. Or we just can't see what people are offended by, and because we got our blinkers on.
Yeah, definitely, and like that's what I thought too. Like, and that's what I mean, where it's like there are these superficial things that I think you can pull from it, and you can you can take a read on it. But my biggest compliment to this movie is that I think it's got a lot going on, and it's like I think I gave you my read on it, and I'm sure there's other ways to interpret that too. But like, I was watching it, I was like, I think there's a lot to this thing, and I think it could be easy to misinterpret it, or might not even misinterpret it. You could just watch it and be like, man, this thing's like got it all wrong, and then that might be a fine reaction too. I don't know what the old Peckinpah was trying to do. I didn't watch his documentary or his interview about his movie, so I don't know. Maybe he doesn't know either. Maybe he's got the David Lynch approach, where it's like, what do your movies mean? It's like, I don't fucking know. It's like, I just do stuff that I think is cool.
Cool. Well, he's talking. I think he's like one of his poll quotes that people really focus on is about violence. My films are about violence and putting people into these situations. But it's like often like he depicted violence in a really cinematic way, in a way that's like has a poetry. RJ, like when those his use of his slow motions, his use of that in showing that he like his refining of exit wounds with squibs. And the meatiness and like reality of people getting killed, he has a lot more presence to it than like you think about the movies that were coming out earlier in the show. We were talking about like Justin Peterson was asking about like crime noir and film noir and like those types of movies, and I was like, yeah, I mean, like for the most part I give those movies like even like really great ones like 4 stars, because like these movies like are so, like for the most part the stylization of them from reality is like so much where you're like, oh, you're watching a movie, you're never totally immersed in like it as a place because it doesn't feel contemporary. But you watch even like you watch Sam Peckinpah's Wild Bunch, which is like turn of the century Western in Mexico, where I'm like, oh, I've never been to Mexico and I'm not a cowboy, but like it feels like you're there, or it feels like a lived in experience. And so the violence feels that much more visceral, and the depiction of it, the way he shoots it and lingers on it, and it feels like terrifying as well as exciting, because you're like, man, this is some good filmmaking, just like a John Woo movie is.
Yeah, people say I'm kind of like a John Woo movie.
You know what is also terrible?
What's that?
The remake. This movie was remade, RJ.
Yeah, I know. I watched this remake. It was available for me on Amazon Prime.
That's how I watched it. 40 years later, we got Straw Dogs 2011, written and directed by Rod Lurie, the man behind The Last Castle.
Absolutely.
Tagline for this: everyone has a breaking point.
Do they?
L.A. screenwriter David Sumner relocates with his wife Amy to her hometown in the Deep South. There, while tensions build between them, a brewing conflict with locals becomes a threat to them both. So, this movie kicks off with a CGI deer. And I'm just like, I'm in good hands, because God knows we couldn't even get a deer just to shoot it. No, not to literally shoot it with a rifle, but to
just film it for 2 seconds.
Yeah, but that's I think so this movie's already like a Wolverine type of experience. We're like, let's go get that CGI bear for no reason. So
then what happened?
But then we get and actually this is a callback to the original film, which has an amazing title card of the Straw Dogs, the 1971. The font they use, it's so cold on that white kind of background. It's like, whoa, this movie's gonna be a real deal type of deal. In Straw Dogs 2011, it's just comically bad. It's just this red text with like this menacing music that tells you exactly how you're supposed to feel.
Dun, dun.
Straw Dogs. Because you've never seen the original, because you're an idiot. So now we're going to give you one that you want to watch, because it's got stars like James Marsden.
Cyclops himself? Whoa.
So I'm watching this movie cold, and of course, in the update, David is now not a mathematician, because what's that? No, he is a screenwriter doing God's work on this earth, writing.
I think that's the worst thing.
Oh, it's so bad. It's that is the most screenwriter move of all, making your lead character a screenwriter.
It's like being an author of some of the world's most renowned horror books, and then making
your character
every character a writer.
I'm a novelist.
Oh, it's all I know how to do.
Some notes here. Apparently, in 2011, debit eludes the South because there's a bit where James Marsden's character goes to pay his bill at the bar.
Cash only.
Cash only. You know, that thing that poor people use to pay for things. The waitress says this because that's how waitresses talk. In fucking shit movies.
I find it strange because it's I think cash is a rich person thing. Because very few people carry cash anymore, Jarrett.
Well, I don't know. Maybe down here in the Deep South, they don't got those fancy machines. It's all it's all cash. It's no, in 2011. No, I seriously.
They should have a debit.
But they got that in there just to be like, oh, you're not on the East Coast anymore, viewer. This is a total exploitation movie. I wrote a note here. Lol, a dog.
Which one? Oh, yeah. I got you.
Of course there's a dog.
Sure. Why wouldn't there be?
Yeah.
Was the dog James Woods?
No, that is then. Oh, James Woods is in this. Because
playing himself.
Well, his Twitter persona anyway. He's really embraced. Sure. Yeah, he's playing Uncle Tom. It's just it's all this movie's going through the motions, but it's trying to explain things. Instead of kind of the dreary grayness of England, we get this the beautiful, lush South. And I'm like, oh, the bog trotting Cornwall is just like, it adds more to like the crappiness of like, oh, everything about this movie feels off. When you're in the South, you're like, oh, look how great it looks. Come on down. Look at these vistas.
What kind of vistas you working with over there, Jarrett?
Oh, the sun breaking through these like kind of these marshes and like,
Ooh,
very, very nice time of day.
very Vista-y.
Vista-y. I got a note here about James Marsden is a real asshole, huh? Like his character is like doesn't have any of the kind of anxiousness or apprehension that Dustin Hoffman brings. He's just like, I'm just a guy.
Just a real piece of shit.
Yeah, I'm such a dude. I'm like, I don't understand anything going on here.
Mm-hmm.
They take away his agency immediately because instead of how like Dustin's character buys the bear trap himself and is bringing it in as like this antique thing. No. It's just like it comes with the house. Because you're like, well, of course, it makes more sense in the context of the story to be just there. Because I mean, why would a contemporary screenwriter have any interest in this kind of thing? But of course, it's like, well, because it had some character, like just like this novel little. Oh, that is a weird thing for a person to do, but it's something a person would do rather than I'm just walking into this with my hands and my laptop and I'm ready to write my story about Stalingrad.
Yeah, I honestly, I was watching that and I was just like, why the fuck did they do that? I was like, just make him a mathematician. Well, you said why, but like,
but then of course we get the scene where like he does like the workout thing with the jump rope and he's like, I counted in binary. You're like, why is he still saying that? He's a fucking screenwriter now. Why does he know about?
Why would he know that?
Why does he know binary? It's like it made sense because it's like at least because he's a mathematician. But now it's like we'll just keep that line in because that's the only way I can explain why he jump rope so fast. You're like, yeah, because that was like a clever scene. Now you're just redoing it, but it makes no sense now because that's what remakes do. So this house, considering it was apparently hit by a hurricane, perhaps Hurricane Katrina, probably.
Jared,
it's in immaculate shape. It's amazing.
There's nothing wrong with that house.
Nothing wrong with that house. The barn, yeah, it's like, some of it's come off. You got to fix it. It's not going to cost that much. It's not going to take that long.
But then what do they do?
Oh, well, they go half speed. I got a note to myself here. Take your stink feet off the diner table and stop distracting me, bitch. Yeah, because there's a scene where Amy's character just plops her fucking toes and fucking like, hey, aren't I being sexy? He's like, no, go like fuck off. Like,
hey, was that line in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
It should have been.
Take your stink feet off of the cedar feet.
You're fucking gross. Just
fucking gross.
Fuck off with that shit.
But I know you would. That's a real Jared Duncan thing. You hate feet, right?
Just cut them all off.
Just down with feet.
Yeah, down on the ground.
I mean, but that's it though.
So the rapist, the rape squad in this.
Oh yeah,
these guys are way too nice.
Sexy Alexander Skarsgård?
At the beginning of this movie, just like they're taking some things for granted because they don't have like their boundaries are like, well, they're in their neck of the woods. They're like, oh yeah, I'll go grab a beer because that's what you do. Who gives a shit? And you're like, yeah, like these guys are like fine. Like none of them are like really weird until suddenly the screenplay decides, oh yeah, now they're fucking weirdos. Right. Yeah, they got designs on your wife.
Some people don't know they're rapists until they rape people.
Whereas the unpleasant Cornish men, they're just like horrible. Like they're just assholes and louts and like they immediately are pricks. It takes like, and it's like, oh, so these guys are way too nice to kick things off. It just doesn't make sense.
Sure.
There's my note about keeping the line about binary numbers. Comment how James Marsden in general as an actor, he never really worked out. He hasn't panned out the way that I'm sure that he thought he would.
Well, I don't even know if like just the amount that was given to him, like Cyclops and like all these other roles. It's like I feel like Hollywood was really banking on him, but it, like you said, it didn't really pan out. So it was like, why did everyone think James Marsden was gonna be like that, or is that just weird Bryan Singer being like, ooh, this guy is sexy? Because, Brian's allegedly, right? Bryan Singer is allegedly a weird dude, isn't he?
Something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Marsden, what a non-actor. Oh yeah, there's like a line too where like I think it's like James Woods like, who's the cream puff? And I'm like, do you see that guy? That guy's fucking built. Like, that guy works out all the time. But even though we never see him, like, lift a weight, that guy's, like, in incredible shape because he's a fucking Hollywood actor with a personal trainer.
I get it. People say that about me, too. They're like, man, you are in incredible shape.
But
what do you do? And I'm like, I'm just a Hollywood actor.
What's this cream puff about? Of course, because he looks.
What's up with this?
He's dressed. Because like everyone in this movie is like pretty like James Woods. Like he's immaculately dressed. Like he's like got like costume. He's got clothes that come right off of a rack.
Is this the one where they're like, "What's up with your shoes?"
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because
like, that's just how you wear them.
Sam Peckinpah, there's a bit where they look at his shoes because like he's wearing tennis runners, and you're like, everyone in that town wears fucking boots. Like mud boots, because it's like, yeah, it's damp and shitty here.
This one, they're like, how do we get that same thing across? It's like,
by saying it out loud.
Take the laces out of his sneakers and make someone comment on it. Be like, hey, what's up with your shoes, bud?
We got a complete waste of Walt Goggins. Just bullshit.
Oh, in like 5 seconds of film.
I'm Dominic Purcell's brother.
Dominic Purcell too. I mean, like, what's he even doing in this?
He's getting to play the oaf. The gentle giant.
And then in a completely unnecessary scene where he has bones sticking out of his arm, it's like, why did you include that? That's not necessary.
You know what though? It's I guess it like adds a little bit more of like, oh, he's messed up, rather than he might have a broken rib, because you don't want to show anything else.
Well, I thought in the other one it was kind of just like he's like, I don't know where I am. And it's like, oh, this dude's fucked up. His brain got fried.
Yeah, he doesn't know anything anyway. Like he's simpleton. He's
a hard R.
A half hour into this remake.
Sure.
All of a sudden, those dudes start getting weird and like, look at that. Hey, would you rather? What would you like to do with that, huh? And then, RJ,
what they rather do?
We get Straw Dogs Explained. The title of the movie is Explained by James Marsden.
Well, why would he do that, Jarrett?
Oh, and another all caps note: this movie can't even show tits.
That's true.
Because Susan George, there's the scene where she goes up to the window and she's just like, yeah, look at me. There it goes. And this is like a big presentation of like, hey, boys, I'm going to take my shirt off while staring at you. But then like cut away from it. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, it's weird in this one because it's so intentional from the character. And it's just in the other one, it wasn't intentional. And I feel like that plays better.
Yes. Yeah, and there it's kind of like she's doing it too, but like not in this, like it doesn't like have these framing of her like I'm taking back the dominance by staring at you, by showing you my tits. And you're like, in this she's just like, oh, do you happen to see them? I'm going to leave the bathroom door open while I go have a fucking shower. Like, it's just like done. And there's no like reactions and cut back and forth. It's just crap filmmaking. Just like every movie nowadays. This is the problem with kids these days, RJ.
Yeah. I just imagine that Lois Lane, Kate Bosworth, didn't want to have nudity. Oh. Did you know Kate Bosworth and James Marsden were in Superman Returns together?
Oh, is that a thing? Really?
Yes, they were.
I don't remember that movie at all.
Also in that movie, Kevin Spacey.
A good friend of Bryan Singer.
Your close personal friend.
I'd like to point out that Roger Ebert likes this movie more than the original.
Pretty outrageous.
Yeah. We get talk about Play and Pray. Is that a thing, RJ?
Play and Pray?
Yeah.
Pray and Play?
Yeah, the big the pre-game prayer session.
I mean, maybe in some weird Christian religion, not in
south,
not in the one true religion, Catholicism. I've never heard of such a thing.
Well, these people hate you too, so that's fine.
Well, fuck them. I mean,
and then RJ, we get a double down on the God shit in this thing, where suddenly you're like, James Marsden's like, yeah, I'm not really into the God thing, and the guy's like, what do you mean you're not into the God thing? That's one thing to say, but he put a lot of time. And you're like, why does he fucking care all of a sudden? You're like, don't these people just like ignore these people? Like,
well, they're rapists, Jarrett.
Well, he's like, shouldn't you, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. What if she covets me? And it's like, I
found that problematic.
What then? You're like, whoa. See, but that's the rapist though. They think you're into me still. And you're like, is she?
Well, I found it problematic for James Marsden because it's like, this guy's got no spine. That's like the whole point. It's like he would never say that.
Well, yeah, but he's a screenwriter, so he thinks like a screenwriter, a shitty Hollywood screenwriter.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very on the nose type of stuff.
That's what pushes things over the line all of a sudden. It's like, you don't believe in God, you motherfucker.
We gonna get you.
Yeah. So now we got some talk of redneck wisdom, and
then what?
And then we get the handling of the dead cat scene, which to me is like played so bad. Like I think I was messaging you. I was like, you know what, RJ? This kind of reminds me of Hereditary all of a sudden. Where I'm like,
Yep.
Is this supposed to be like? Is this
spooky?
Funny? Or is this like it seems like James Marsden seems like he's smiling through his lines. Like I was just like, what is going on? And then like, you have to, and they're going through the motions at this point. Hey, you have to call those guys out and tell them that they killed your cat. They're sending you a message that they can get into your bedroom. And you're like, oh, that's
what a
weird.
message, eh?
Yeah, what a message. And then we get like blatant attention to like the cat bowl because now we have like a thing with the cat's name on it, and her going, "Here, kitty, 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 here, kitty, 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 kitty," and you're like, wow, this movie didn't need that at all. But I guess we have to make it so she's an idiot, everyone's an idiot, and rather than hypocrites, they're all idiots. Yep. And then we get a note here from me, Silent Hill Deer, where like we get James Marsden in the spooky, foggy forest because he gets invited out to hunt, and then we get a CGI deer run by him rapidly. He's like, oh, and then some gunshots were, oh man, I didn't know you were out there, and then we get
Hank Hill,
and then we
Bobby,
then we
I didn't know you were out here.
Then we get CGI deer being shot. Intercut with rape ejaculation. It's like well,
I mean, is that not how you do it?
And then this movie is garbage.
Yep.
And then we had the record player instead of Charlie being put to rifle point. Like we had a record skip, and you're like, wow, that completely changes the dynamic of this. Because now Charlie's like, well, yeah, that was always part of the plan. Take things over, other rapist. And then of course, like while Amy's being taken from behind, we have James Marsden stroking the dead deer body to in juxtaposition to rapist caress. What a classy remake this film is. It's just
it's classy, Jarrett. Hey, which rapist do you identify more with?
The RJ.
You don't.
Still
dear.
Yeah. Okay. And then of course, instead of like how Dustin Hoffman just fires the guys in a huff, we get like James Marsden, who's still annoyingly polite to the cat-killing rapists.
Like, yes, well, I mean, you guys are gonna have to leave.
Yeah, I'll pay you whatever. Well, that's $5,000. That's cash. And he's like, oh, I'm just fucking with you. It's like, ugh. You didn't.
Yeah, I like Dustin Hoffman's passive approach better, where he's just like, I deducted the time that you wasted.
Yeah, he's like very.
I was watching.
Yeah, he's annoyed rather than like, hey guys, I'm just gonna like. I gotta fire you, but it's just crap. But this whole thing, if you're not picking up when I'm laying down, is crap. So instead of the community social, we get a football game. I mean, that's like, it makes sense in a world where screenwriters do all your research watching Friday Night Lights. Someone's like, someone set me up with my DVD season 1. Now I'm like, now I know. I understand the South.
I understand football.
Dominic is no David Warner.
Nah. I mean, he's okay.
Yeah, my note here, this movie fucking sucks. What a way to celebrate the 40th anniversary. The score done by one Larry Grope.
Okay.
Because you know what this movie needed?
What's that?
During the siege, which in the original, there's no music other than the diegetic music that he gets put on the record. No, it's got a score. And it's because you need a score. Movies need scores, otherwise people will be confused and think for themselves. And then we get Black Sheriff, who you're like, oh boy. And like, instead of like the scuffle where someone's like accidentally shot, no, he is like just full on murder from behind by racist Uncle Tom James Woods.
Yep,
just like full on. You're like, okay, there goes the ambiguity. Yep. There goes like, oh shit, that was like the final straw. It's like, no, this guy's just totally murdered that guy.
Did you say like the final straw dog?
The final straw dog of like the black sheriff who's stupid enough to trust the dumb white crackers. They're like, see, he should have known better. Just like being a woman, you should have known better. Don't be showing your titties.
I have to interject for a second when we were just talking about the straw dog business. I forgot to mention I was looking on IMDb at the pictures because I was trying to find a picture for the Instagram because the video I was watching wasn't great quality. Doesn't matter. But I stumbled upon what might be the worst posters for this movie for a movie I've almost ever seen. These are almost as bad as the Awakenings Blu-ray cover that I put out a long time ago. They're so literal. Where, like, I don't know if you've seen like the German poster and the Japanese. It's a literal straw dog. Oh! It's a dog made out of straw, like biting at like Dustin Hoffman, and almost all of them have actual tits. Like it's nude breasts, and then a straw dog, and it's like, I screen capped like 6 of them. I'll put them on Instagram tomorrow. I was just like, what is this? I was like, who did the artwork for this? How come you did anything other than what the actual poster is? Because that's just perfect. You don't have to do anything else.
So my final note here is I got a good laugh out of Dominic Purcell's his head patting and going.
Oh, I wish everyone could see what I see.
I'm like, of course, because that is acting, and then everything like ties up. Everyone gets fucking dead except for our heroes, and everyone saves the day. But then like the barn's burning, and then we get James Marsden standing in front of the flames, and we get the credits roll over, and just it's a good way to do a compare and contrast to show, hey, Sam Peckinpah, what a great filmmaker,
what a good guy.
Yeah, and this Rod Lurie, get out of here, buddy. But his filmography demonstrates that quite well. It definitely does. Yeah. There's a reason why no one's like talking about Rod Lurie. Mm-hmm. He got a paycheck, I guess. So good on him.
Sure, why not?
You got any thoughts you want to add to the Straw Dogs 2011?
No, I think we pretty much did what we needed to do.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, that movie sucks.
It's bad, real bad.
Not much to say.
You want to hear about who hates the original Straw Dogs, though?
I could guess, but yeah, go ahead.
It's going to be a lot of the same thing.
Yeah.
Kubra Goktis?
Sure. Why not?
Goktis? Sure. Half a star. This is just from a few days ago, too.
Oh, shit.
A woman is suffering from rape, sexual and psychological harassment, humiliation over and over just because of her coward-ass husband. See, that's lame. The balance. I
don't think she got raped because of him.
The balance of his rights and wrongs is such a nonsense. If this film hadn't emphasized David Sumner as the hero of the movie, I could like this movie because I especially like movies which show us bad things in detail and in a realistic way to teach us what wrong is. You gotta teach us you gotta teach us. That's what movies are for, I guess. I love that kind of ironies. I turned mad when he walked away happy.
Oh, did you? Or did you? Friend of the show from Manesia?
There you go.
Where's Manesia?
Got to pick on the English a little bit, sorry.
Yeah, so Kubra has taste. They might be a fan of this podcast. They just gave 400 Blows 5 stars, which I don't really endorse.
Maybe they'll be a future fan, and then they'll hear us
talking about them in detail. They gave Raw 5 stars, which I also don't endorse. But their only half-star reviews are Straw Dogs and Scott Pilgrim, which Scott Pilgrim's getting picked on a lot lately. Wow. And as I've said, I don't care for the filmmaker, but I think that movie is ace.
The Sociologist's Dojo.
That's too complicated.
Half a star. This movie is trash. The climax of the film is the only thing that has potential to be interesting, and in order to get through it, you have to sit through 90 minutes of misogyny, the presentation of toxic masculinity as nobility, what? And other painful sexist tropes. Then, once the climactic scene begins, it is not even that interesting. Dustin Hoffman's character is a beta male sexist that begins to revel in the brutality he inflicts, even if the final line does shed some doubt on it. While I respect a more feminist reading of the film, which I read in one review, I do not share its sentiments. This movie is garbage and should not be part of the Criterion Collection.
I always find that comment so weird where people are like, this shouldn't be in the Criterion. It's like, hey, the Criterion is a made up thing, right? It's like, this isn't doesn't matter.
It's not in the Academy or anything like that. It's just like, hey, this was a way to market shit to you, fucking rubes.
Even the Academy, it's like, that is also just this made up thing. It doesn't matter.
You got to go to the Academy, and then you have your work presented at the Salon, and then people marvel at your work. The critics stand around and Pontificate.
And just
Pans,
So
I says.
this person's bio says the blog, so it's not even a real person.
Yeah.
The blog focuses on the social analysis of film and popular culture by using the sociological perspective. So this person is an undergrad in sociology, I am guessing, which I think sociology is dumb. Fuck you.
Thank you.
I have a psych
Thanks,
degree.
RJ.
Sociology is stupid. And
No.
all those people in sociology are always like, oh, psychology is stupid. It's like, fuck you. Your thing's made up. This is a thing I've noticed. I don't care what anyone says. I've noticed this in my pockets of the world. You suck. This person's tastes suck. All their 5-star things are what you would expect. Midsummer. Who gives a shit? Half-star movies are like, I don't know. Wolf of Wall Street for some reason, Gone Girl for some reason,
They're all
Frozen for some reason,
they're all misogynistic, I guess.
even Frozen.
Yep.
All right, whatever. I don't.
Finally, one more, another recent one too. Jamie Britton. This is a movie that's easy to hate. Half a star.
Sure.
An unpleasant film in search of a point to make about something. What starts as an intriguing exploration of sexual repression ultimately becomes a rape revenge film with nothing to say but plenty of blood to spill. Trigger warning for the rape scene midway through the film. Thanks.
Okay.
That notorious rape scene has lost none of its excruciating ham-fistedness and now sits as a
Good.
real low point in 70s cinema, owing, or perhaps inspiring, far more to pornography than cinema itself. Growing up having heard about this film, but having never seen it, I always assumed that the outrage was one of censorship and moral panic. But watching it today, as Susan George's screams of terror make way for explicit sexual pleasure, giving way to screams again as a third party enters the scene, it's impossible not to feel revolted. No shit. There's no truth or honesty or moral ambiguity of the kind seen in The Wild Bunch. No. Just the perverse
person's confused.
exhortations of men played out for their own amusement.
This person's very confused, Jarrett. It's an abandoned.
What is the moral ambiguity of the
of rape.
What is the moral ambiguity of The Wild Bunch? Like it's basically these white guys go down and fuck up shit in Mexico, and it's like it's a total guilty pleasure movie. Like, I'm just gonna throw that out there. I don't know if that's it's my enjoyment of it's maybe morally ambiguous. Straw Dogs, though, I don't think you can't get on board with the whole movie. Like, everyone's horrible and they're all dicks, but it's well made.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Well, Jamie Britton, Jared, is TV writer, movie lover like no other. So there you go. This is an abandoned account. It seems
they just literally watched this movie a month ago.
Yeah, but like other than that, they haven't watched anything in a month. Maybe they're too busy writing TV. They have one 5-star film. It's The Wild Bunch. They have one half-star film. It's Straw Dogs.
And that's it.
But what I find interesting is they gave Deliverance 4 stars. So they're cool with the raping in Deliverance, but not other rape. I guess. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like the Deliverance in the rape and Deliverance and the rape and Straw Dogs are equally gross and equally unappealing. So I don't know where you draw the line on that.
You're not into Ned Beatty getting butt fucked? What?
I'm not into anybody getting what you said. So I find it strange that they're like, that movie's awesome, but this other one is bad.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Strange.
I don't know. I guess maybe I didn't go out of my way to find like a good argument about the problems of Straw Dogs, but I don't think I'll agree.
Fine.
I don't think I'll agree with anything that anyone would say about it. I'd be probably hard. I'd be hard to be convinced of it.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't care.
It's fine. But hey, Straw Dogs,
yes.
Peckinpah, we did it.
We sure did.
And we're still standing.
Kinda.
Like Elton John.
What? Huh?
No.
What?
What?
Are we still doing this thing?
I don't know.
Christ.
After the break, I'm going to give Big RJ a ride home.
Man, I don't know where I'm going.
I don't know either.